Hi, this is Marina from Astrology, bringing you Jupiter in Pisces, but the big news really is the aspect of this month of April is going to be the big conjunction with Jupiter and Neptune at 23 degrees of Pisces. So what I'm going to do first is look at just Jupiter in Pisces on its own without the conjunction with Neptune, because even though I know I should have done this earlier, but anyway, I just think it's important to understand that, and then we can get on to, how it's going to sort of peak this month. So, before it happened, it was, I think the whole Jupiter in Pisces, we were all like going, we really need this. We need some good news. Jupiter in Pisces is going to be like, it rules Pisces. So it's going to be, really powerful. And it's going to be a spiritual awakening. It's all going to be wonderful. But did we know that we were going to go into World War III? I don't know. And I didn't predict that at all. So in December, I think I wrote this December 2021. So it was the end of 2021. So I said, Jupiter in Pisces, the transit we've all been waiting for. Why? Because Jupiter rules Pisces and he spent far too long in signs where he's totally restricted from doing his thing. Even if we want to throw caution to the wind, we couldn't because Saturn had been keeping his beady authoritarian eyes on his fun-loving brother like a CCTV camera. Oh, how wrong could you be? Anyway, so I don't know. It hasn't finished yet. The Jupiter in Pisces hasn't finished yet. So maybe there's still room for it to be a wonderful thing. But anyway, so during the period of Jupiter in Aquarius, it was evident that technology, instead of being our friend, was spying on us. With both Saturn and Jupiter in Aquarius, it's been full-on surveillance. Plus, we had the Saturn square Uranus as well to contend with, and I called that square the Techno Tyrant. But now, finally, from December 28th of 2021, Jupiter can break free from his Saturnian restrictions, which will hopefully make life a lot easier for all of us. Yes, the restrictions for the most part due to the COVID have been taken down. Anyway, so the last time Jupiter was in Pisces was from 1998-99. Before that, it was 1986 to 87, and it's a 12-year cycle. So let's have a look at what happened last time. So in 2022, Jupiter will form a conjunction with Pisces' modern ruler Neptune in Pisces. And this conjunction last occurred in 2009 in Aquarius, and it happened 3 times due to its retrograding. It's only going to happen once this time. So it made 2009 a very Jupiter-Neptune type of year. So, back in 2009, this conjunction actually fell on my natal 9th house Mars. Just to give you an example what could happen with it, it brought me astrology as a full-time career and a very long-distance marriage to an Australian astrologer. And that ended in 2013, so it's not going on now. But, at the time, I thought anything was possible, and it sort of makes you think everything is your soulmate and it's destined to be, and it doesn't matter whether they're 20,000 miles away or whatever it is from England. Anyway, so as for 2009, generally, it did seem like an anything is possible year. Barack Obama became the first African-American president of the USA. In 2009, Avatar became the highest grossing movie ever, and the Twilight Saga, The New Moon, was the most purchased DVD in 2009 as well. So the fantasy film Avatar has special effects, really, really good, amazing for the time special effects, and Twilight also brought us the supernatural theme as well. So Now, Jupiter conjunct Neptune in Pisces has not happened since March 1856, and before that was February 1690. So you can see how rare the event is. It's also significant because both planets rule Pisces and are sympathetic to each other. So if there's ever was a conjunction that signifies a spiritual awakening, then yes, this is it. Let's hope. Needless to say, it should make us all incredibly intuitive and some of us extra psychic or extra deluded, I think, now, looking back at this. So did it make, though, people extrasensory in the past? The problem is that's a kind of phenomenon that would be very hard to record. But let's go back to 1856, because that's when we had seances and opium. So Neptune was discovered in 1846. 10 years later, it will make its conjunction with Jupiter to seal the deal. Victorians were fascinated by the supernatural and seances using Ouija boards. And that became popular. They also were taking mind-altering substances, which may have also fueled this blurring of dimensions. Sailors brought opium from their travels, and the East End docks became notorious for their brothels and opium dens. Many famous Victorian writers were addicted to laudanum, a herbal ailment remedy that was 10% opium. And you could just buy it from your local chemist. Now, it's interesting, these days we have an explosion of heroin problems, don't we, as well? So anyway, so it will be hard to assess the effect of this conjunction in modern times, as their meeting is not always experienced on the material level. You can more easily see Jupiter conjunct Neptune's impact on music and art. So it should undoubtedly fuel the imagination of artists when it occurs. Let's hope. Now, back in 1690, Baroque cathedrals were big. It was the height of the Baroque architecture phase, and a fine example was the Chapel of the Holy Shroud in Turin, and that was completed in that year. And all the artistry was found within the great Baroque cathedrals of the time, rather than artistic works, it seems. So I think that was the biggest manifestation of the conjunction. And the Baroque style, with its over-the-top swirls and embellishments, are also very Jupiter conjunct Neptune in Pisces as well. And in 1856, the pre-Raphaelite movement became fashionable as well. And the National Portrait Gallery is also established in London in that year. The pre-Raphaelite movement style was very romantic, feminine, and ethereal. And Jupiter conjunct Neptune also has those dreamy, flowing fairy tale qualities as well. And much was made of Jupiter conjunct Saturn in Aquarius, that it could be a messiah or herald the age of Aquarius. But instead, though, it seemed to bring more of a Antichrist vibration. So, negative Aquarius has zero empathy, remember? However, I mean, in the beginning, when I was looking at the Jupiter conjunct Saturn, again, I was being very positive about it. I always go in with, a very positive attitude, and then, it's the Messiah. It's going to herald an age of equality in a good way, and that the oligarchs won't take over. But like I said, it seemed to bring this kind of Antichrist thing. So, and then I said in this article that I had very high hopes for Jupiter conjunct Neptune in Pisces. Anyway, it's going to occur in a couple of weeks' time. And I did say I hope this does not mean deception on a grand scale, but I'm kind of thinking it might well be now. This watery pair can be highly deluded, and a lot depends on the state of the collective soul. Feelings of unity and oneness become essential, or there will be a great sadness in solitude. However, I think the spiritually evolved should really flourish under the conjunction. So, if enough people wake up to the truth, which is positive Jupiter, that should help elevate the rest who are not quite there yet. So, is 10% of the population enough to enlighten us all? Let's hope. Jupiter is optimistic and Neptune is the great dreamer. So after Jupiter-Saturn's lonely social distancing in Aquarius, we're all well overdue for the blissful connection that could happen with Jupiter and Neptune. Now, remember, Neptune has been in Pisces since 2012, and, that date promised so much in terms of awakening, but it did seem to be a bit of, just a big hype in the end. Maybe though, Neptune was just waiting for Jupiter to sprinkle its fairy dust over it. But in any case, awakening does not just happen overnight. It is a process, and Neptune leaves Pisces in 2026. So this Jupiter conjunct Neptune in 2022 could be our peak Neptune in Pisces experience. We could be flooded with love and light, or we could just experience floods. So Jupiter conjunction Neptune is biblical in its energy. It's not the most grounded conjunction, so we could easily be swept away on a tidal wave of euphoria. Religion could make a comeback, though, or we could just realise the importance of a spiritual practice, no matter what colour or creed it is. There may be moves to create a world religion, though, to control us further. So we must keep well aware of that. I would add to that this whole, the whole sort of green agenda, it's almost become like a religion now, hasn't it? So it's like everything has to be, because everything is being done in the name of saving the planet, everything got to be, what's the word they use all the time? Sustainable, isn't it? Everything has to be sustainable. And, with all this kind of this concentration all the time on energy, who's got the energy, who's got the gas, who's got the oil. We're going to have to learn to live with a lot less of it. I think they're going to want to cram us all together, aren't they? Because then, if you huddle all together, if you all live in little pods, we can heat the whole pods up and you'll all be warm. And, it's so selfish to have a whole drafty house to yourself. Another thing is drugs, Brave New World and Soma. So, drugs, Brave New World. Huxley took the name for the drug used by the state to control the population after the Vedic ritual drink, Soma. And that was also inspired by his interest in Indian mysticism. So enlightenment through entheogens is a possibility. More people may seek escape from the restrictions of the West to the culture of South America and such like, where they experience the mind expansion of drugs like ayahuasca. In Europe, magic mushrooms could become more popular again. It's also obviously very magical, Jupiter conjunct Neptune. The supernatural will be a massive trend in fashion and pop culture. We already had it with Harry Potter back in the 90s. The first 3 books came out in 1997-99 at the last conjunction, but we should see a revival of that kind of genre in 2022. I don't know if that's happened yet. When I wrote this, again, it was the end of 2021. Have we got any revivals of... Because I don't really watch much, I don't watch any really mainstream sort of Netflix, but I don't know if there are any kind of supernatural things going on Netflix. Let me know, because I don't know if there are. So I did look at Jupiter and Pisces in the decans, but we've kind of been through some of them, so I won't repeat them. Where we are at the moment, we've come to the end of Jupiter and Pisces decan 2. Now that, interestingly, we've had lots of deception with that. And just to go back on it, actually, this was from February of this year to March 26. And it's the most artistic and temperamental side of Pisces. But with artistry comes glamour, and with glamour comes deceit. Austin Kopok, who has got us the 36 Decan Faces book, which is all about the decans, he said that Pisces Decan 2 contains tricksters, liars, who try to paint the portraits of their understandings and sculpt the form of their visions. So, we have also certain obligations in our material life and need to support our families. However, we also have a moral obligation to the eternal and the future of this planet. So we can find ourselves torn between the worship of mammon and cultivating our spiritual soul. But again, you see, whenever I mention the future of this planet, that's been taken to, to be, the planet's dying and it's us that's doing it, and we have to, eat bugs, basically. And of course, we all love the planet. I love my garden. But what about all the toxicity they're putting into it with all this plastic and other stuff? Anyway. So the final decan, Jupiter in Pisces Decan 3, what's that going to mean? So we have that until May the 11th, and then Jupiter goes into Aries, but that's another thing to look at. But it does come back, you see. So we've got it till May the 11th, and then it will come back from October the 29th to December the 21st. So it hasn't finished. So for this, I said that during this transit, we're in a war for the possession of our souls. The collective summons up the spiritual warrior. At the end of the zodiac line, it is about utter annihilation or rebirth, heaven or hell. So the day of judgment is upon us. And I realise I have made many religious references in this post, but it is rather hard to avoid them with Jupiter in Pisces. As I've said before, we're currently living in biblical times. So will there be floods? Will there be a second coming? Will there be alien disclosure? Probably all three. With Jupiter in Pisces, anything is possible. So just a word about what would this conjunction mean for you, really? I mean, generally, Jupiter brings luck and expansion into the house that it transits. So for the next year, you should see things improve and grow where it falls. However, I think with Jupiter in Pisces, it should bring even more success than usual, and it could be quite magical, in fact. So if you did miss out on the goodies with Jupiter in Aquarius, dare to dream the impossible with Jupiter in Pisces. So obviously it's going to activate Neptune, so wherever that, in the same house. And in those areas, you should find your intuition working extra strong for you. So, for example, if this conjunction falls in the second house of cash, you might do very well on the stock market. And also, if you want to find out what they mean, I have included what this means for all the 2022 horoscopes. So I'll leave a link below for them. Actually, they're on YouTube as well. So before I get into the specifics of the conjunction as well, because I have written another post just on the conjunction meaning by itself, I did do some research. So these are the Jupiter conjunct Neptune dates. Now back in, so we'll start with the most recent, going back to the most distant. So the last time it happened was January in 1984, which is kind of Orwellian, isn't it? 1984, at 0 Virgo. And it was January the 22nd when CBS runs Apple Computers' iconic 1984 advertisement for the Macintosh personal computer. So it was the first Mac on sale in the US. So there you go. Yeah. So that's, that is virtual reality. That's the start of it. Then Jupiter conjunct Neptune, January the 9th, 1997. That was the one before that. That was at 27 Virgo. All I had for that one was Turkey threatens Cyprus, prompting the Cypriot missile crisis. So there's a few missile things going on. Now, do we believe nuclear weapons are real? Nuclear as well. It's, I don't know, because that could also be a big scary fake thing. And Neptune, yeah. So that can be gases as well, and poisons. Then 2009, it happened three times. That was the big year. So each time, May the 25th, North Korea announces that it's conducted a second successful nuclear test. There you go. The UN condemns the reported test. United Nations. January the 15th, Caspian Airlines flight crashes, killing 168 people. Then Avatar was released in the theatres. Then the one before that, this is the one in 1856 in Pisces. So that was the last time it actually happened in Pisces. Peak XV, what is that? I don't know what that is. 24, 25. Later named Mount Everest, is officially recognised as the tallest mountain in the world. So yeah, moving, yeah, the impossible, I guess. People have climbed that. Moving was the first synthetic organic dye. It's discovered while synthesizing quinine. And that leads to the birth of the chemical industry. Interesting. Chemicals. Chemical warfare. And then the Treaty of Paris is signed, ending the Crimean War. Now, Crimea, pretty close to Ukraine, isn't it? Before that, let's go to 1690. The conjunction in Pisces, again, February, the Massachusetts Bay Colony issues the first paper money. So that was in North America, the first paper money. Yeah, which sometimes is fake because it's not real gold, is it? Okay, and then I listed the Jupiter in Pisces, like specific events that seemed very kind of Jupiter in Pisces-ish. So these aren't Jupiter conjunct Neptune, they're just Jupiter in Pisces. So the last time it was in Pisces, so we're not looking at the conjunction anymore, it's just Jupiter in Pisces. So the last time was February 1986 to March 1987. So that year was designated the International Year of Peace. Let's just hope peace. Then it was the United States Senate. Senate allows its debates to be televised, which is very Piscean again. Pope John Paul becomes the first modern pope to visit a synagogue. The first child born to a non-related surrogate mother is born as well. The Chernobyl disaster happened, so there's more nuclear. That was in Russia, so Russia's in the news again. That killed at least 4,000 people. Then we had the Hands Across America, which is we are all one, man. At least 5 million people. Wow. Formed a human chain from New York to California to feed hunger and homelessness. So again, these themes of hunger, they keep saying there's going to be there's going to be hunger, food shortages as well. So again, eat bugs. Sorry. So that was to conquer homelessness. And yeah, I think homelessness is going up now anyway because the economic issues are happening. Dissolving money, is that what this is doing? So yes, back to Jupiter in Pisces. Construction of the world's largest openable storm surge flood barrier is completed in the Netherlands, so floods. Phantom of the Opera, became the longest running Broadway show. That opened in London in 1987. The average per capita income in Japan exceeds that in the United States. And then the first commercially available 3D printer was sold then. So yes, again, printers making things from thin air. That's quite magical. Then back to Jupiter in Pisces in 1998 now, 1998 to 1999. Now, I'm sorry if this is a bit boring, just reading out lists, but I think they're kind of interesting. maybe I'll speed through this one. So it was the International Year of the Ocean. 19 European nations agreed to forbid human cloning. The Lancet study suggests an alleged link between the... Now, this is interesting. All right. So a Lancet study suggested an alleged link between the MMR vaccine and autism, but then the study was fully retracted in 2010. Titanic, that's so Jupiter and Pisces, isn't it? Became the first film to gross 1 billion. Good Friday Agreement signed, leading to peace in Northern Ireland after 30 years of conflict. First euro coins were minted and the European Central Bank was established. Floods, Yangtze floods in China. Google was founded, and Bill Clinton was acquitted in impeachment proceedings. So will we have an impeachment? Anyway, so that's that. So let's see, let's get on to the conjunction, because that's what's coming up next. So initially I thought, because, usually a conjunction isn't really a soft aspect. It can be a hard one. But I thought, yes, because Jupiter and Pisces, Jupiter and Neptune both rule Pisces. I thought, they're sympathetic to each other. What could go wrong? And I just thought it could be really lovely and all this sort of stuff. But I think I might have been wrong about it. So, I did say even in harmonious aspect, we must be wary of getting blinded by the glamour of these romantic and ethereal gods. Jupiter is a nymph chaser, remember, and he shape-shifted into cute animals to seduce women. I also found Jupiter did show up as a lecherous paedophile, even though he's considered a benefic. And Neptune is generally seen as chaste in astrological interpretation, but he's also pretty rapey as a god, because he did, he raped Medusa, by the way, in Athena's temple. So that's the sort of contradiction of Neptune. On the positive side, Jupiter-Neptune in soft aspect symbolises courtly love, the kind celebrated in medieval times. Troubadours would sing slushy love songs to married ladies. Knights would joust in honour of the queen. And those pining wannabe suitors, unlike the groping gods, never, ever, ever took it to the physical. So also Jupiter signifies abundance and wealth. So when it touches Neptune, one could become rich from Neptune pastimes or careers. So that means earnings from music, dance, poetry, sailing, the arts, or being a guru or spiritual teacher. It seems like a very luxurious connection, but it's often the very rich who, after discovering money does not bring happiness, turn to spirituality to find meaning in their life. Well, I don't know about the very rich, because the very rich seem to be the most unspiritual you could get at the moment. But will they see the errors of their ways? I don't know. Well, I'm thinking now, because I did sort of say, can you... The whole main theme of this aspect post was about, can you afford to be spiritual? But now I'm thinking, can you afford to be green? Because the thing is, all this thing about electric cars, they're hugely expensive. I'd love to be able, I'm learning to drive. I want to get a car. I can't afford that. You can't. And most people can't. And so it's all very well, like all this kind of like, the whole green thing is just too expensive. And it doesn't go for long distances. And, it's only the very rich who can afford to be, to virtue signal in this way. So yeah, my point was, most people who struggle daily to make ends meet and feed their children will still be in survival mode. And in that position, there's very little time to get spiritual. That said, there are natural born Jupiter-Neptune folk who never had a yearning for material success and were always content to live frugally. And so Neptune in its highest form tends to be celibate or virginal. Again, weird because he was a rapey god, but anyway. Many of the early Christians were famous for renouncing their regalia and wealth, and for that very reason they were persecuted. It's hard to blackmail someone if they don't care too much for their worldly life, and even harder if they're celibate and have no family to support. So it was probably important for priests and priestesses to be single for that very reason, because they were less likely to be corrupted. So traditionally, soft Jupiter-Neptune aspects are incredibly idealistic and esoteric. It is the archetypal guru, mystic, healer, or spiritual teacher. And so Jupiter-Neptune transits can herald someone coming into your life who serves as a great teacher or mentor, but there can be a tendency to idolize that person too. So, it's really glamorous. It's almost fairy tale. And the temptation to go full on fantasy mode with this transit is really easy. And it's not easy to keep your feet on the ground. So then I was thinking, the Antichrist, because they say the Antichrist is going to come as this amazing spiritual savior, So beware of people who come across as saving the world. They're doing it for your good. I'm just going to, inject you with this wonderful substance. It's going to protect you. And then there's the great compassion and the empathy. That can be so easily faked as well. It can cause an outpouring of charity to the unfortunate. And at the moment, it's all, help the Ukrainians. I mean, I don't want to say, that obviously war is a horrible thing and there are people being injured and it's awful. It really is awful. But it's like, what about Yemen? So it does annoy me that every, almost, I'm on the internet and whatever platform I'm using, there's like a little Ukrainian flag in the corner, give to Ukraine. It's like they're so very selective in where they want to give their charity. Again, Yemen. No one's talking about Yemen. I didn't even know about Yemen. It's just certain people I listen to have brought it up. And Yemen, that's all I'm going to say. And this is the problem because with Jupiter-Neptune, you've got to be always careful that honest and perhaps naive people's good natures are not taken advantage of. There'll always be opportunists who seek the gullible, and it will be easy for them to profit from the sympathetic and rose-tinted atmosphere. Exactly. Okay, so I wasn't that deluded with this. It's just because I'm just reading over this post. So, but I haven't looked back at it since I wrote it. So, so generally Jupiter-Neptune aspects are just lovely, but you may have difficulty getting anything constructive done if you have the trine. But we're talking about the conjunction. The trine is definitely way more fairy tale. But still, I think even with the conjunction, it's going to be the same because it's in Pisces and, that just makes it just more fairy tale-y. Yeah, so all in all, I'm thinking there's such a really big opportunity to use this for nefarious means. And, I don't want to be a big wet blanket and say it's all going to be terrible because they want us to feel fear as well. And I don't want that either. But you just got to keep your feet on the ground with this one. Really, really do. Because it's so easy to be swept away into the big fantasy thing. I just want to actually also look at some examples of people who have this. So with the conjunction, so Benjamin Disraeli, he was the Prime Minister of the UK, serving under Queen Victoria. He had this. He played a central role in forming the modern Conservative Party, defining its policies and broadening its appeal. He was creative on the side and wrote novels about his political career. Disraeli was creative with the truth about his origins as well. So, yes, okay. So, as a Portuguese Jew from a mercantile background, he preferred to say he was descended from a grand Venetian family. Disraeli reinvented himself and converted to Christianity, which enabled him to enter politics. As I guess Jews weren't permitted to be politicians back then. And then there's this quote as well. Disraeli's career was a romance such as no Eastern vizier or Western plutocrat could tell. He began as a pioneer in dress and an aesthetic of words. Disraeli actually made his novels come true. So that's real, Jupiter conjunct Neptune. Is that anything is possible, dreams come true. Oh, and by the way, this was personal to him because he had Jupiter rising. So that's what I was looking at. So other people that have it were Pope John Paul II, Katharine Hepburn, Laurence Olivier, the romantic lead. Brian Ferry. I think he's Pisces as well, isn't he? Jupiter conjunct Neptune, he had it as well. Andrea Bocelli. Yep. And, writers Percy Shelley and Virginia Woolf. Oh, I forgot to read the quote from Disraeli. He says, "The greatest good you can do for another is not just to share your riches, but to reveal to him his own." Yeah. So yeah, help others make their riches, help their dreams come true. So yeah, I don't know whether something really crazy is going to happen on April when is it again? Yeah, April the 12th, and it'll be at 23 of Pisces. So if you've got anything at 23 Pisces, it'd be really interesting to see if anything astounding happens. I don't know, something huge. I mean, again, it depends which house, depends what planet it is. But I think the main theme is some sort of out of this world, supernatural, spiritual awakening, something maybe musical, artistic inspiration, artistic success, huge lies, huge fantasy. I mean, it could be any of those things. That's the thing. It could be any of them. Maybe the Antichrist is revealed, but as this kind of new religious leader. It's funny because I'm just going to go back to Russell Brand again, because he's being built up now as being, this kind of, hello, good morning to all you 5 million awakening ones, and he really is starting to annoy me again. I have a real love-hate thing with Russell Brand. I dreamt about him the other day. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I look at his face and it just upsets me sometimes. It's just, I don't know what it is. I just get a really weird feeling about him. So maybe someone like that. I don't get that feeling about Joe Rogan. I know they're all saying, oh, Russell Brand's the Joe Rogan of the UK, but I'd rather have Joe Rogan, really. But I am thinking of something like that. I don't know if it is Russell Brand, but someone like that. But then I'm just thinking, who is that big that we can compare, at the moment? I don't know. I mean, it's those are the two types of people. So maybe something in connection with them might happen. Don't know. Tony Blair's another one. I mean, although he doesn't look nice, he doesn't look like someone that I would think, oh, he's so lovely. What's the other one? The Canadian. Justin Trudeau. Oh God, he's very Jupiter Neptune. I don't know what his chart has in it, but he's got that, really sincere, angelic little cherub face. God. So yeah, beware of anyone that just looks too good to be true. That's really what it is. Super shiny. Yeah. So otherwise, And don't discount your feelings either, but don't let yourself get so off your head that you're not grounded and you think anything is Jesus, or whatever, whoever your God is. It's just keep grounded. Stick your feet in the earth. All right then, so I think I will leave it there. Oh, by the way, the artwork I did for this, I really enjoyed doing it. It's I'm starting to get into surrealism, which is also quite Jupiter Neptune. It is available as a print, even a yoga mat, a spiral, notebook, phone case, greeting card, beach towel, shilling, and tote bags. All sorts of things. So that'll be on the link below. Other than that, have a wonderful Jupiter conjunct Neptune. Go somewhere nice and watery and meditate or just or draw things. All right then. So take care. All the best. Bye bye.